When Mum left, she was just really trying to rebuild her life to get some funds together so she could come back and get us. So she went and married someone else, and when she came back into our lives, Dad had been found guilty of sexual abuse crimes and he'd been put into prison. We had been left with our stepmum, who was starving us, mentally, physically abusing us. So my name's Chris Tuck and I'm one of 6 children, siblings, and I grew up in around Penge, Crystal Palace, Bromley, Croydon and now West Wickham. So all round South East London really. I was born in 1970, now 55, so I've got many years under my belt where I've endured a lot of adversity, but I've also been able to heal from a lot of that adversity, move forwards in my own life and bring many people alongside me to enable them to fulfill their potential as well. So I was the eldest girl, born to my mum and my dad. They had 3 other children, 2 boys and a girl. And my dad and my mum separated when I was 7. And my dad remarried a lady 4 doors down. She had 7 children, all girls. Her youngest was 4 months older than me. So they were a lot older. And my mum, when she left when I was 7, she was trying to rebuild her life so she could come back and get custody of us. Back then, there was no like women's aid or refugees for women that had gone through domestic violence to go to. So when Mum left, she was just really trying to rebuild her life to get some funds together so she could come back and get us. So she went and married someone else, and when she came back into our lives, Dad had been found guilty of sexual abuse crimes and he'd been put into prison. We had been left with our stepmum, who was starving us, mentally, physically abusing us, and Mum was trying to get custody of us through the family courts while this was all going on. And she eventually managed to be successful in that because my dad literally signed over custody because he was going to prison, and my stepmum declared that she no longer wanted us because we wasn't bringing enough benefits for her. So there you go. So went back to live with Mum when I was 11, and we all thought that we were now going to be in a safe environment, a loving environment, a caring environment, and we were taken better care of to a certain extent. We were fed, we were given clean clothes, we had a roof over our heads. We went to school, we were looked after in all of the physical aspects of being looked after. But the stepdad was an alcoholic, the mental abuse continued, the physical abuse continued, and the sexual abuse started. So when we were living with my mum and my dad, the domestic violence was between them. We didn't really see it, but we knew it was happening. When I was with my dad and my stepmum, there was physical abuse going on between those two. Lots of shouting. My dad even used his air gun one day to shoot at my stepmum in an argument. And that was very traumatic to see. So as I said to you before, you never knew really what was going to happen, when. You didn't know what was going to trigger what. So you was literally living on your nerves. There was a dynamic in this household where my stepsisters, if we did something wrong, they would tell their mum or our dad and we would get punished. Yet if we did it, us 4 children, if we reported on them for doing something wrong, we would then get punished for tittle tattle. So my dad never protected us from her, and that is one of my big triggers that I've had to deal with in healing, was that there was no one there to protect us. When my dad got put away for sexual crimes against some of my step siblings and my sister, not me, my stepmom's abuse of us escalated just because she could. That would be starvation, that would be physical hitting, that would be coming straight home from school, being sent up into our bedrooms that were very bare, very basic, when we could hear and see children playing outside in a summer's evening. So it was that kind of power and control that she exerted. Then we went to live with mum and stepdad, and he would literally rule the roost, and if there was something that he didn't like, you would know about it. So he would go for a Sunday pub drink, come home, we would know that he was going to come home. As soon as the key went in the lock, we'd all scuttle away because we knew that this thing was just going to erupt. We'd been preparing dinner, Sunday dinner, for hours, and we would have it all on the table, ready and waiting for him and his key to come in the lock. He would come in, literally look around, decide that he would pick on one of us. We weren't allowed to talk back, otherwise there would be violence straight away. And then if we dared to say anything or not say anything, he would still keep picking until there was a response or reaction, and then the whole table would just get upended. The food would go everywhere. Mum would end up crying. He would end up having a go at her, and us children, if we could, we would just scarp her. So it was all this tension all of the time. With my stepmum, it was more of, she wouldn't even allow us to look her in the eye. And I found looking people in the eye very difficult for a long, long time. So it was almost like, look at me when I'm speaking to you, but she'd be shouting at us and spit would be coming from her mouth. Look at me when I speak to you, but the minute you looked at her, how dare you look at me? Who do you think you are? And then you get hit. So there was a lot of conflicting messaging going on all of the time. No, but it was over familiar with people. I think I'd been so harmed by other caregivers in my life that I really wanted my dad to be my protector, my carer, and I really loved him back then when I was a child. And when I found out, when he was arrested at home, when I found out what he'd been arrested for, I didn't want to believe it. 100% didn't want to believe it. I thought my stepsisters were setting him up until my blood sibling, sister, told me that she had also been affected. So then I had to believe it. When you're in the family environment, you tend to lean towards people who you feel are protecting you, and you tend to want to believe a certain thing about them. And they may be abusing other people within the family structure and not abusing you. They might be a friend to you, but an abuser to one of the others, and that can be very well hidden. So with my dad and my stepmom, it was clear that my dad wasn't protecting us anymore, just by the way that things were going. And he was over familiar with some of my step sisters. But because I was of a young age, I didn't really understand what was going on until I got told afterwards what did happen. So when you're in it, you don't always see it. And especially when there is other abuse happening, like the mental abuse and the physical abuse, it's all about surviving, and it's not always about understanding and seeing exactly what is going on. When I was with my mum and stepdad, I was 14. I wasn't 7 to 11. I was older. By this time, I had been sexually abused by someone outside of the family home at the age of 9, which was reported to the police, but he was never captured or convicted. So I was already, by the age of 10, more worldly wise to what abuse looked like, what it felt like, and how I could keep myself safer. So when I was with my mum and stepdad, as I've said, I was a lot older, and I could see what kind of person he was. He would touch different women's breasts just as oh, you've got nice boobs. He'd say something different, but I want to keep it clean. He would fondle, touch. He would be outwardly doing this. And when we came to have go through the criminal justice process to try and bring him to court and make him pay for what he'd done, it came to everyone's attention that he had a pattern of behaviour of doing this. So he sexually assaulted me by touching my breast. But at the time, I took action against him by kneeing him in the groin and basically telling him that if he ever touched me again, I'd kill him. And that is when I left home, because I felt really unsafe. I couldn't carry on. So I felt like I had, for me, nipped that in the bud at that time. I hadn't, but at that time I felt really empowered by what I'd done. I knew that he'd obviously been lured, L-E-W-D, if that's not how you pronounce it. His behaviour was lured. It was not right, but that 70s and 80s, 90s, people sort of got away with that a lot more, but it wasn't right, but they still got away with it. But then I found out that he'd been raping and sexually assaulting my sister. And that is when I went to town. That is when I was just like, we reported it to the police. We got social services involved. We made sure that the 2 half-sisters that were left in the house by this time, because there were 6 of us, my mum and him had 2 children, so they were our half-sisters. We spoke up, we spoke out, we made sure that social services were in the picture, making sure that he knew. There wasn't enough evidence to do anything at the time, but he knew that if there was a sniff of him going anywhere and doing anything to those 2 young children, he'd have to pay for it. So even though us 4, my elder brother, me, my sister and my younger brother had left home by that time, we felt that we'd done the most we could have to keep those 2 younger children safe. What else could we do? We were all young. We were like 18, 17, 16. We were all so young. We couldn't take or be responsible for 2 younger children. So we gave out strong messaging that we were watching and waiting for him to do anything wrong. Anyway, long story short, in 2016, as part of the independent inquiry into child sexual abuse, there was this Truth Project. We told our story. We shared the abuse that had happened and the justice that didn't happen. And they said, do you want to report it now, in 2016? for non-recent abuse. And we're like, can we? Yeah, you can. So we re-reported everything. We went through the criminal justice system between 2016 and 2022. We tried to get this man into a court of law. CPS kept shutting it down. No further action, no further action. So I went through the whole victim's right to review process. No further action, no further action. I took on a solicitor and a barrister. They took me on pro bono, and we went after just my stepdad because they can't afford to do all of this work for nothing. But they said there's enough evidence to get him prosecuted for what he did to my sister. So we felt as a family, let's do that. Let's get my sister justice, and then we all get justice. We got into magistrates, we got him into Crown, CPS came in, closed it all down. So that left me with a rage that you would not believe. It turned up in all areas of my life, like a huge volcanic rage. I had 2 years of EMDR trauma therapy to get that out of my system. So I don't know if you've ever read a book called The Body Keeps the Score by Professor Van der Kolk. It shows you, explains it, how trauma, if suppressed, if not dealt with, how it gets into your body and stays in your body. Yeah. So throughout my lifetimes, so I'm 16 to 28, I dealt with my trauma that I'd suppressed deep because I wasn't speaking about it. I was masking. Bulimia, where I'd made myself throw up. Running, run. Made me feel good. My life, I'm in control of my life, but I wasn't. When you look back, the bulimia, the cleaning, the constant running was all coping mechanisms for dealing with the hurt, the anger, the sadness, the bereavement, whatever emotion and whatever feeling you can think of, it's all for that. So when I couldn't get my sister the justice that she deserved, my body and my brain were just like in free fall.